True crimers, welcome to Break the Case. I'm coming in just a little bit early today because I just wanted to say happy Valentine's Day to all of you. And also, it seems like it's been forever since I've been on with you. I had a trial this last week and it resolved a little early, which was good. And so, anyway, I've been feeling pretty tied up with a lot of things. Anytime you come back in town from being out of town, as you all probably know, it just seems you have a million things to get caught up on. But I wanted to say a special hello to all of you joining us on Valentine's Day. Also, look in the back there, I got Valentine's Day roses, which is always really cool and fun. So no matter whether you're a gal or a guy, don't forget your significant other. I also wanted to show you all something so cool. I showed this on Twitter and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to bring this up on my channel because it has everything to do with my channel. So each week I'm going to show a different cookie, but somebody made these cookies. Break the, they're in the wrong order, case. See, I've got everything in the wrong order because it's inside out whenever you're on camera. And just like what happened in the Sally Port on the Karen Reed case, I'm not trying to be deceptive. Still, no matter what, no matter whether it's inverted or not, I've got 3 cookies here. So anyway, thank you for these. And then each time, because those are the main cookies, I want to show the side cookie that they made. So I'm going to start off with the Glock because first of all, just the fact that they did the Glock, which is the gun issued to FBI agents, I thought was so cool. I'm having these all shellacked. I could not eat them. I went to go eat one and I just couldn't do it. My daughter came home a couple of weeks ago from law school and she grabbed one. She's like, oh my God, these are so cool. And she said, can I eat one? I said, no, no, you can't. So anyway, I'm going to get these shellacked and I'm going to put them in a cool kind of shadow box thing. But I hope you all are doing okay. As you know, for those of you who are returning, we love to cuss and discuss cases here, and it's definitely going to be from a law enforcement angle, but try to present both sides. We have great guests. Tonight, we are going to have Dave Ehrenberg. He's a chief state attorney in Florida and Palm Beach County. He is amazing for breaking everything down. The reason I really like having Dave on, and I have a lot of attorneys on that I so much respect and really love to have on. What Dave brings to us that I really like is he's in the courtroom. He's still fighting. He's still going through cases, like he is really doing it. And I just love that part of what he brings to the stage for us because he sees as law evolves, he's right there with it as case laws being made, and he's been doing it an awful long time. And the case we're going to talk about is the Madeline Soto case. And Madeline Soto, as you probably know, is a case that is here in Florida. So who better to talk about it than a Florida attorney? Let me just double check. And he says he did not get the link. So I'm going to bleep out for just a second. We'll be right back with Dave. All right, everyone. We have Dave with us right now, so I am going to bring him on the stage, and we are going to talk about Madeline Soto. I've already introduced you, Dave. Here he comes. Oh boy, let's see. Hopefully not too many technical difficulties here. Come on up on this stage, Dave. Let's see.
All right.
I did it. Happy Valentine's Day, Dave Ehrenberg.
I wore my Valentine's tie for you, Jennifer. It's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Very cool. Thank you for being here. So I warmed up the crowd earlier.
All right.
But I did want to quickly just say, just to give a few details about the background. Of course, Madeline Soto went missing on February 26th, clear back last year. Mm-hmm. And of course, on the 1st, March 1st, her body was actually discovered. And charged in this matter is Stephen Stearns, who was not a stepfather, but was the paramour of her mother, Jen Soto, who we're going to talk about as well today. But he was charged actually in 2 separate cases. And let's just kick it off with that, because I've got a lot of questions about that. Yeah. First of all, as the audience may know, Stephen Stearns was charged with 60 counts. And let me tell you what these counts include. 8 counts of sexual battery with a victim under the age of 12. 5 counts of sexual battery for a victim 12 to 18, and 7 counts of lewd molestation, and then 40 counts of child pornography. Now, what I want to talk to you about, Dave, is these were charged, if you will, or going to be tried, I should say, separately from the murder charges. My understanding, it's because I guess it would be too prejudicial. Tell me what you think about this decision. Why can't they do this all in one big lump trial?
Yeah, there is an element of prejudicial when you hear that the guy's got all this child pornography on his phone, including pictures of the young girl, Madeline, who was murdered. And so that could be way too inflammatory for a jury. Plus, they have him dead to rights on the pictures. He had the pictures on his phone. It's not like it's that complicated of a case. The tougher case will be the murder case because it's largely circumstantial. They've got him, I think, on it. The evidence is strong, but they decided to go with the easier, the lower hanging fruit first, the child pornography, sexual abuse, and then they're going to go for the murder case next, which is also a death penalty case, and that's also more time consuming. You've got to make sure you get all your ducks in a row. So they're saying, let's go for the lower hanging fruit first. Also, there's the issue of potentially inflaming the jury so that it could get overturned on appeal if both are combined together. So that's why they decided to do what they did.
Okay, so now a question about that then. How much evidence can they use from the first trial in terms of those pornographic photos and everything? Because it really goes to motive.
Yes, it's up to the judge. There's a rule in the evidence code that says that if something is more inflammatory, meaning if it's more prejudicial than probative. So to put it in plain language, if it's more inflammatory than it is, then it provides evidence, then it can't be used because you want the jurors to focus on the evidence. And if they are just distracted by, whoa, what kind of pervert would have all these photos on his phone? He must be guilty of everything. That's where the judge might say, okay, we're separating the trials and we're not even going to allow the jurors to see the pictures. You could hear about him sleeping with Madeline, but as far as seeing the photos, I'm not sure those are going to be allowed in.
That was my question. I'm putting you in a black robe right now and giving you a gavel. Are you going to let 40 of them in, 30, 20, none? What are you going to let in?
It depends. Now, if he denies, if he takes a stand, which he's not going to do, but if he takes a stand where if the lawyers open the door in some way to, they never slept together, here are the pictures. That opens the door to being impeached by those pictures. But if they don't deny it, if that's not an issue with the case, then I think it's tougher to bring them in. Now, it's tough because remember, the cases are separated. So the issue of whether or not he committed sexual assault of Madeline will be dealt with in the first trial. The second trial is the murder. And I think they're just going to focus on evidence that shows murder. You can get to motive by talking about the fact that they slept together, that that the mother allowed this to happen and this was a common thing and he wanted to cover up the evidence or whatnot. You can talk about stuff without actually showing it to the jurors.
Okay, staying still on this first trial that we're talking about, which is supposed to take place in May, my question to you is Jen Soto, the mother, I think she will testify in both cases. And I believe that this is why she hasn't been charged, because I know you've probably heard her statements. It's so egregious, at least for being charged with some sort of willful neglect. And it's just stunning to me that they haven't charged her, other than I think it's because they need her. They need her to put together the pieces, at least for the second trial for the murder. And I was wondering your thoughts on that.
It's a good point, because a lot of people are wondering why the mother hasn't been charged. She could be charged with child endangerment. I mean, she knowingly and willingly let sweet Madeline go to bed with this guy, sleep in the same bed as this guy. And the way that she acted with him doesn't make her look very sympathetic, although there were some images of her standing sort of in front and to the side, where it was almost like a hostage video, where he really did have a control over her. So at some points, I have to admit, maybe there is little sympathy that she could engender, but for the most part, people want her to be charged. So I can only imagine that the reason why she's not is for the reason you said, that they want to use her at trial. They don't need her in the first trial. They've got the images. That's the best evidence of proving their case. But as far as the circumstantial case of the murder, which really is the whole ball game here, because that's the death penalty, then I guess, yeah, they want to make sure she cooperates. Now, they could try to subpoena her and not give her a deal. But then if she's also on trial, that really complicates things. And then it's unlikely she'll be able to participate at all. So they wanted to go for the guy who's by far the most culpable here, allegedly, and decided that they're going to pass on the mother for now. If she doesn't comply and play ball with the prosecutors, yeah, I do think she would be charged.
So let me talk about the death penalty, not as it pertains to the murder charges. We'll get to that. But why in the world, when one of the only states is Florida, that, in fact, the only state is Florida, where if you rape a child, you can receive the death penalty. Why don't you think that they make this kind of the test case for that?
You know, I thought of that too. Jennifer, you're asking all the right questions. They could have, but it would be a test case. And they probably thought, okay, it's not been challenged and tested in the courts yet. We think that this new statute in Florida that allows you to get the death penalty in a case where no one dies, because remember, that's not the charge in the child molestation case, that they worry that they could go through this whole process, get a conviction, get the death penalty, and then it's on appeal forever, when they've got a second case, the murder case, that would be upheld on appeal because it involves the death of a vulnerable child. So I guess they just thought that if their only charge were the child sex case, then they would go for it. But they don't need to, because they've got that in the second trial, the death penalty trial on the murder. So I guess they said, you know, it's not worth the hassle. The juice is not worth the squeeze.
Good answer. Good answer. I agree, dragging my feet a little bit. But I agree.
It is controversial, though, to impose a death penalty in a case when there's not a death. And that's why I think the prosecutors were like, oh, it hasn't been tested before. Do we want to be the first case that certainly will go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court? We got this back. We got this other case. Let's just rely on that one for the death penalty.
I think the reason that, for me and probably you and everybody else here, that this one is just so gross is because she was 11, 12. I mean, she died a day after she turned, or was murdered a day after she turned 13. So young. And I think those images go back even further. We'll see what they end up saying, but they have before the age of 12.
Yeah, I hear you, Jennifer. I mean, when you hear his interviews and see him, you see this guy's like just allegedly a weirdo sociopath. I have to use the allegedly in there. Actually, I'm allowed to make a judgment that he is a weirdo And to me, he seems like a sociopath. And also, he seems kind of weak and just like nervous and scrawny. And a guy is like, pick on someone your own size. Here he is taking everything out on this 12-year-old girl. It just seems unfair. It just seems cowardly. And that's one of the reasons why people are so upset at this guy. It's like not even a fair fight. You're picking on this sweet 12-year-old girl, and it just gross all the way around. So I understand why people want him to receive the ultimate penalty. I do too, and I think we'll get it.
So I want to go over really quick just a few points of the circumstantial evidence that we discussed. So we know he dumped her backpack and her school laptop in a dumpster at about 7:30 in the morning on 2/26. That was the day she was reported missing. We know that at 8:19, there's a video of both of them in Jennifer Soto's car, and she's slumped over. That's how it's described, slumped over. So they think she was already deceased by that point. And then, of course, they knew he was over off of this old hickory tree road, and that's where she ended up being found. She had clean socks, which to me as an investigator, like that's the first thing. Do they even have their shoes on? Oftentimes they won't have their shoes on, because they didn't have their shoes on when they were murdered, and the murderer doesn't go through all that bother. And when they pick them up, they don't have any dirty socks. So I just love that clue. And then also there's recordings with his parents where he says words to the effect, and you have to sit down for this one, "I didn't start it."
Oh,
yeah, it's a good tidbit, I think. So anyway,
the parents lost faith in him really quickly. It seemed like they're like, "Oh, come on, tell us what's going on." I didn't start. Yeah, he did use words to that effect. I don't know if it was the exact words, but it was something to that effect. Yeah, and then he implicated the mother here. He was like, "Well, there's other people involved in this," something to that effect.
Yeah, but certainly his statements, I think, at least tend to show some culpability in this. But that's some of the main, I guess, circumstantial items. But I wanted to ask you this. I noticed that they're coming forward, the defense, and saying, we want the death penalty off the table, but, quote, it's unconstitutional. Does this have any legs, Dave?
No. It would have legs if it was for the first trial. That was another reason why they decided not to pursue it. But for the second trial, what's unconstitutional? Now, if he's found guilty after a unanimous vote and then goes to the second stage, which is the penalty phase, and it's 8-4 for the death penalty, then under Florida law, he would get the death penalty. We're the only state that has it that low, 8-4. So that would be challenged. Now, so when this gets over, if he's found guilty and then given the death penalty by anything less than a unanimous vote, I do think they'll appeal it. And it's a new law in Florida that makes it less than unanimous. And there is a chance on appeal. I think doubtful. The U.S. Supreme Court's very conservative. If it's 8-4, maybe, because no other state has it that low. So that's his lifeline. But he may get 12-0 because he's uniquely unlikable.
Yeah, absolutely true. So I'm so glad you brought up the 8-4, Dave, because I wanted to point that out. I mean, this is really unique. Two things in Florida, right? Death penalty can be used against people who molest a child under the age of 12, I believe it is. And then, or is there even an age limit, or is it just minor?
I have to look up the exact wording of the law, but I believe it was not just a minor. What didn't apply to a 17-year-old. I thought it applied to children who are younger. So I have to look up the exact age of the law, and I can do so while we're here online and just double check. But I do think you're right. The first time, I think it is 12 years old. And
then the 8-4. I can't wait to read audience comments just to see what they think about that, since it's always been unanimous and it's unanimous in other states. I thought that is just very interesting. All right.
There's a couple states. I think Alabama is not unanimous either, but I'm not aware of any state that has lower than 8-4. And, the reason why they passed that just in the last couple of years, Jennifer, right? The case that spurred that change?
No, help me.
Well, it happened on this day. It all comes full circle. It happened on this day. This is the Parkland Massacre on Valentine's Day. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and there was—I don't want to say the kid's name. He was at the time 19, and he murdered 17 innocents, injured another 17, and he was able to avoid the death penalty because 3 jurors in a 9-3 vote found for the death penalty, but that's not enough. It needed to be unanimous. And so Florida said, we're changing it to 8-4. That's because of that murder and the fact that he's going to live the rest of his life now in prison, but not get the ultimate penalty.
You know, I'm really disappointed in myself for not remembering. I don't call these anniversaries, but for not remembering the significance of this date, because my nephew was actually one hiding. I post on him a lot, hiding below the desk. He lost friends. It was absolutely horrible. Actually, there's a picture of my sister and him that made a lot of news just when they came together. You know, it's just chilling what happened that day, but I didn't realize that significance.
Yeah, you and I are on the same side of the law, and even though I'm no longer a prosecutor, I still it's my heart is there, and that was so tragic that I won't even say that person's name. I mean, I think the focus should be on the victims. And Jennifer, as you correctly said, when Florida changed its law to allow the death penalty for sexual battery of a child, it applied to children under the age of 12.
Yep. And this is the perfect test case, but that's okay. I get it. I get it. Better safe than sorry. Okay. I want to bring up really quick. There have been allegations, and we know they exist, that he suffered, meaning Stefan Stearns suffered a traumatic brain injury when he was young, when he was a child. And interesting, to give credit where it's due. And I actually like this channel. I'm not one that tunes into all the channels, but I love to tune into different channels to pull out different items. There's a channel called Plunder, and she does what her bailiwick is she does all these FOIAs, and she does them all over the country on all sorts of cases, and she finds all sorts of very interesting tidbits. But anyway, she went after this TBI record, and she found that out of all of the pages, I believe there were only 4 pages left. 4 out of this whole record about this TBI, because there was an apparent lawsuit, Dave, right? So whatever happened, they sued, and supposedly, you know, I don't know how it came out now because we have 4 pages. I want to ask you, A, why would a record like that be destroyed? The whole thing, other than 4 pages?
I don't know. Why would it be destroyed? That seems to be something. I mean, are they claiming it's accidental, or was there something more nefarious going on?
Well, how it was read was the rest of this, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but the rest of this file has been destroyed.
Well, there are rules for destroying documents and spoliation of evidence and all that stuff, but they have to look to, was there nefarious conduct? Was it intentional? Was it something to try to conceal something, or was it just the natural process, which after a certain period of time, the documents get destroyed? And so it matters.
Yeah, I think it's important in this case for the defense, because the defense, and this leads me to my next question, if obviously there's evidence of this TBI and there's going to be witnesses that can talk about it. Obviously, I don't think Stefan Stearns will be up there, but his parents could talk about it, other witnesses. Do you think, or can that be used to mitigate his actions here?
Well, yes. In fact, when it comes to the penalty phase, you can bring up anything. You can bring up anything. Your mother smoked in the womb. That was brought up in the Parkland Massacre case. Your mother didn't love you enough. You can bring up anything. Now, for the aggravators, prosecutors have to prove aggravators unanimously, and there is a list of statutory aggravators. But when it comes to the mitigators, you can bring up anything you want. And so if you want to bring up his brain injury and you want to bring up, anything else, go ahead. It's up to the jury to decide what outweighs what. And if there's evidence that there was some intentional destruction of documents, then that would be a problem. But to me, I would think it's just in the natural course of keeping documents. It's just, as I was saying, there are rules. You don't have to keep documents forever. And so if it just shows that we don't keep these documents beyond a certain period of time, it's past the time frame. We delete these documents every 5 years, and this is 7 years later, or whatever it is, then it's not a problem. And the most that the defense can hope for is just that someone feels sympathetic towards Stearns, that he had some issues in the past. But I mean, everyone has issues, especially people who commit horrific crimes. I mean, these people are sociopaths who commit crimes, and he's innocent until proven guilty. But it's not like normal people sleep with 12-year-old girls, 11-year-old girls, and then murder them. I mean, they're going to have some ailment. The question is whether you're legally insane, whether you don't know the difference between right and wrong. So he cannot use an insanity defense here because of his steps to conceal what he did, allegedly. And because of that, he knew the difference between right and wrong, right? Why do you lie to police? You knew what you did was wrong. Why do you try to hide evidence? Because you knew what you did was wrong. So the best he can hope for is that if he's found guilty, then he can use this stuff as a mitigator and convince a few jurors that he deserves life and not the ultimate price.
And to your point, he went to the parents' house, which a lot of people believe, and I don't know how much evidence there is there, but that he hid items or, somehow did something there to hide what he did. The body was hidden. It wasn't out in the open. There was steps to conceal it. And then he led law enforcement astray to actually go in a completely different direction than where she was. And so they're going to use those three. Those are just off the top of my head. Yeah. And I'm sure there might be others. To your point, that if you don't think you did anything wrong,
right,
you don't have to cover it up.
That's why he's not going to be able to get away with it through an insanity defense. He can't sustain it. It rarely succeeds. And you have to be someone, for example, if he did this and then when the cops interviewed him, he hugged the cops and danced around and talked about how he did it, and he did it because the Martians told him to do it. Okay, that'd be different. That's not what happened here. He was cool and calm and very tricky in what he was saying. He was trying to, think he's smarter than the cops. Now, then he gave over his phone until they found these images. Idiot. But, that's the kind of person who would do something like this. So I'm glad that they got those photos, because no matter what, even if somehow he gets a hung jury, gets away with the murder case, which I don't see happening, but even if that happens, this first case is really solid. I mean, people lie, but pictures don't.
Yep. No, exactly right. Videos, photographic evidence, right. It's the best that you can get. Dave, there's one other motion I wanted to talk to you about, and this is their motion that asks for everything to be concealed in terms of cameras in the courtroom. They want to keep this all on the DL, which is typically what all defense attorneys ask for. They don't want this tried in the public. Do you think that will have any legs, knowing the Florida system as you do?
Yeah, the Florida system is very transparent. We have sunshine laws, probably the most transparent state of any state. There are cameras in the courtroom. It's not like New York where cameras are banned. There's very free-flowing discovery. It makes it tougher on prosecutors. We have to give up just about everything, and you have to make people available for depositions. And so it's tougher for defendants to say, let's gag it all. Let's close it all down. Now, he may get because it's a high-profile case, he may get a partial gag order where the parties cannot discuss it in public. That's something. But as far as the media having access to this case and cameras in the courtroom, now that's happening. We'll be able to watch that case, and it will be much watched or must-see TV. And you and I know we'll comment on it as it goes on.
Yeah, Court TV is going to be all over this one. They've been all over this from the beginning, and a lot of stations have. It is so salacious, though. I've seen very little continuing coverage, if you will, on a lot of the main stations, but Court TV is all over this. Dave, I can't thank you enough. Dave is a new groom, or I shouldn't say groom, a new married man now. And so this is Valentine's Day. I cannot thank you enough for joining me, Dave.
Jennifer, thank you so much. And yes, that's one reason why I left government to go into the private sector, because I got married again, and I want to have a family and a house, and those things ain't cheap. So I need to keep working. So it's great to be on with you, because this is a passion that I'll always have, is to be able to talk about these things, these cases. And I love talking about with you because when you post things online, I love it because you have the right perspective. prosecutor, investigator, the right side, law enforcement perspective, and you give such great insights. And every time there's a hater who wants to defend one of these sociopaths, it's like it's great because they have met their match when it comes to battling against you, Jennifer Coffindaffer.
Thanks so much, Dave. I appreciate it. And until next time, because you know I'll be calling you. Good luck in the private sector. I know you're out there working hard, and best of luck to you, Dave. And
thank you. And check out my YouTube channel, Court Authorities.
Yes, I will. I will check it out, and maybe someday I'll be joining you on that.
I would love that. That would be great. We'd love to have you.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks,
all
Jen.
the best.
Thank you.
Oh, you guys, Dave Ehrenberg, he is the bomb. He knows this law inside and out. Like I said, he's still practicing it. He's still doing it. He was the chief prosecutor, state prosecutor in the state of Florida, now in private practice, but still out there practicing. I just wanted to be clear on that. And, you know, I just love it when he joins us. We work a lot together on Cuomo whenever things get hot and heavy on these criminal cases. And so I always really enjoy having him on. Everybody, I'm going to check out your comments. I can't wait to see them. As you know, I read through every single one. And I wish I could figure out, and I've asked somebody to please do this for me because they never carry over. I can't see the live chat and then see it later in my chat. So unfortunately, especially on some of the things going on with Sebastian Rogers, where we might have up to 2,500 people in chat, I can't see all of those, and I can't watch them as I'm speaking with you guys because it's going like this, and there's no way I can see it. Plus, I'm about legally blind from 18 inches in. But I just want to thank you all again for joining us on Break the Case. And I am going to probably have the next show on Sebastian Rogers because there's a couple of things I really want to talk about. I want to make it clear for anybody that doesn't know it. I was alerted, and I told everybody yesterday, right when I found out, that it's an adult skeletal remains that were found in Tennessee. Adult skeletal remains. I let everybody know that the minute I knew that, because I tell you, the minute I was told that, I just breathed a sigh of relief. When we are talking about the extent of time now that Sebastian Rogers has been gone, you know, our hope sadly tends to fade. But everyone, have a beautiful Valentine's Day. Thank you so much for being here. And until the next time, may justice be served.